No, you can do it, Levi.
Yeah, sure. No worries. Well, welcome, everyone. Thanks for listening. We have Abbie Lucas and Kevin Kautzman on the show today. If our listeners remember, we recently had an episode where Kevin was on. How long ago was that? That was a few months ago now, 3 months ago or so. Yeah, really good episode with from the Art of Darkness. And we enjoyed it so much. Well. Yeah. And we spoke about Point Omega. So if anybody hasn't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. It's great chat. So Kevin has recently published a play and a radio play by the name of Basilisk, which we thought was excellent. And he's written it with his friend and longtime collaborator, Abbie Lucas. And so we thought it would be another great opportunity to have Kevin and a friend on the show. So thank you both for coming here and coming on the show again.
Thank you for having us. Yes,
yeah,
indeed. You were
wonderful.
you were so friendly on the Point Omega episode, saying, "Hey, if you have work that you want to share, come back on." And Abbie and I wrote Basilisk for a group called Dark Pony Radio, Shadow Horse Theater, Dark Pony Radio. Listen to the end of this episode, then go listen to that. It's like
absolutely
AI horror. Indeed, yes, yeah. You can find it. It's on Spotify. It's easy. Just look up Basilisk Dark Pony. Yeah, and Abbie, you're making your book club from hell debut.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here.
It's either all uphill or all downhill from here for you, Abbie.
My plan is to go sideways. Let's.
So I was hoping, just give us a bit of a refresher, Kevin, about our listeners, a bit of a background about yourself, what you're working on, what you do, and then we'll hand over to Abbie to give a bit of an intro to herself as well.
Yeah, certainly. So people listening to this probably know me as one of the co-hosts of the Art of Darkness podcast, a podcast about the dark side of creativity. It's almost like a sibling podcast to the book club from hell. Really, like I think they pair well together. Let's say, right? Maybe we're the red wine, you're the white wine. We're the I don't know.
We're the cheap vodka.
Sure, right? Yeah. You're the Epstein to our Diddy, for example, something like that. But no, since coming on as a guest, I came on with my good friend and co-host Brad Kelly. I've listened to most of your back catalog, and I think it's the bee's knees. It's really fun. But on Art of Darkness, the angle we take, and the show's at artofdarkpod.com, the angle we take is that we do biographical profiles of dead creatives, dead artists. Someone has to be dead for more than a year, at least a year, before we'll cover them, because we want to let the dust settle. But we've done figures going all the way back to the Marquis de Sade, and then more recently we've done Norm Macdonald, we did Cormac McCarthy, and we try to do these really comprehensive biographies that can last 4 or 5, even 6 hours. Brad just did an episode on Fela Kuti, which is right now behind the paywall, but it's going to come out for the public. I might even publish it here today. And then I recently did a David Bowie episode, and sometimes we have a guest come on to help us with the core episodes, though we've sort of moved away from that because it's such a big commitment. However, Abbie and we go way back. She's willing to commit to going sideways with me for a while. So we're getting ready to do Hitchcock now soon, too, in October. And we also have a live show in Detroit that we're going to be doing. It's going to be the second live show we've done. Yeah, we're doing the Uncanny Death of Harry Houdini in Detroit, Michigan, obviously. That's where Brad lives, on October 26th. Everything's at artofdarkpod.com. And then in my other life, I'm a playwright. And just real quick, we have my play is going to be produced here in Minnesota, St. Paul. So if you're listening to this and you're in the area, that's happening in October 3rd to the 13th, moderationplay.com. And that is a play I wrote like 5 years ago before the plague. It had a bunch of readings all over different places, Zoom readings. And then I went to Alaska and developed it at a conference. And my theater company and I just said, okay, enough. It's just time to do the play. Let's do the play. The play's the thing. Let's do the play. So tickets for that are at moderationplay.com, and that is a play about social media content moderators losing their minds at work. And I kind of consider it to be it almost exists in the same universe as Basilisk. Like, it's our world, but a little bit extra twisted, a little bit extra uncanny, although our world seems to be catching up and even lapping my imagination. But I think they go really well together again. And there are radio versions of Moderation out on the internet. If you go digging around for it, you can find that. But I really almost think of Basilisk as like a sequel to Moderation. And then beyond that, the next thing Abbie and I are working on, and we'll make time, I hope, to talk about this, for fans of the Book Club from Hell, you'll already know about this next subject, who we're really, really excited to present on the stage. A really oppressed and unheard of voice, somebody whose story I think really needs to be shared on the American stage through the power of song and dance, Marvin Heemeyer. Abbie and I are well into having a script for Killdozer, the musical.
Amazing.
And there you go. And okay, that's me in a nutshell.
Beautiful. Thanks, Kevin. That was awesome. Abbie, what about yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background, your intro for our fans. Take it away.
Okay, my name's Abbie Lucas. I'm a filmmaker. I don't have a podcast, but as Kevin said, I'm coming on Out of Darkness later on in the year to do Hitchcock, and we actually did an episode a couple of years ago on Roberto Bolaño that was nice and long and went really well and was great to talk about. I live over in London in the UK, but I am also an Antipodean. I'm from New Zealand. I've been a director of shorts and web series and promos and things for well over a decade now. My last completed project was a film called Voices that is like a little bit of a dark comic relationship story that gets weird. It's got like kind of Black Mirror vibes to it. You can find it on the Almoletto channel on YouTube. We had a great run with that. It went to over 40 film festivals worldwide.
Nice.
And at the moment, I am finishing off another short film that I shot in Fresno, California earlier this year. It's called Reconsolidation. And that one's like a sci-fi thriller about a guy whose friend dies in a car accident that he was responsible for, and he's trying to reprogram his memories of that event, and that one gets really strange. And then later on in the earlier next year, I'm all things going well going to be directing my first feature film, which will be a thriller written by Omar Khan, who wrote Voices.
Amazing. Yeah. Full feature film. That'll be a huge adventure.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that one.
So today in particular, we're going to be talking about Basilisk. Before we jump into Basilisk specifically, do you want to mention Badmouth Theatre Company? Like, give us a bit of an intro to Badmouth? Yep.
Yeah. So Badmouth Theatre Company is my theater company here in St. Paul, Minnesota. We focus on new plays, new writing. There's a little catalog of play readings at badmouthtc.com if you want to go back and listen to some not really fully realized radio plays, but more like readings. And then through sort of that and being on the theater scene here, and then Art of Darkness Live, we did a live show here. I linked up with a theater company here in town called Shadow Horse Theater, and they do something called Dark Pony Radio. And Dark Pony Radio is the ooky spooky radio show where they do horror radio, and they have these sort of like perennial hosts who introduce their latest horror. It's this sort of serial horror concept, and they came to us and said, "Hey, do you want to write something?" And I love deadlines, and I do. I'm a big believer in kind of going where you're wanted, especially in this day and age, right? Where I think a lot of independent artists, you feel like doors shut more than they open. So when one opens and somebody's really saying, "Hey, write whatever you want, we'll produce it, we'll do it," it's like, okay, let's do that. And initially they came to me, but Abbie and I do a lot of aspiring screenwriting together. We've written like 4 feature films together. One of them placed pretty well at a festival at one point, and we're always telling each other, "Oh, we're going we're going to write something that we're finally going to produce ourselves. And then by the third act, like, okay, I'll tell you a funny story. So y'all remember the Georgia Guidestones? Do you remember the Georgia Guidestones, fellas? You might not, because you're not Americans. The Georgia Guidestones are these, like, this could be an interesting episode for you in the future. It's not really a book club thing. I don't really know, but it's very strange. It's the Georgia Guidestones are these, like, Stonehenge looking like public art, but on private land, that had all these, like, commands to sort of keep the world's population under 500 million, and all these weird, kind of almost New World Order things. And Abbie and I wrote a dark comedy called Doug Must Die. Which has never seen the light of day, but we told ourselves, okay, this is going to be something, whatever. So Doug Must Die is about an aspiring life coach in L.A. who goes through a horrible breakup. Well, not a breakup. Her boyfriend is eaten by a shark, and she discovers that his boyfriend's eaten by a shark, and she discovers her best friend was cheating with her boyfriend, and okay, so she has this, crisis. So she gets lured into this sort of self-help coaching scam in Austin, Texas. So she moves to Austin, Texas to become a life coach for real. And her first client is Death, and he works for the IRS. So whatever, hijinks ensue. But the set piece at the end of Doug Must Die, they go to the Georgia Guidestones, because there's like a Necronomicon-style book, hidden under the Georgia Guidestones. And the thing that happens at the very end of the script is the Georgia Guidestones blow up. Now, Abbie and I wrote this, and Abbie can verify this. I have no reason to lie to you. We wrote this. And it was literally like a day later, or like within 72 hours, IRL, the Georgia Guidestones blew up.
Oh, man.
And
Stranger
we
than
were
fiction there, man.
Stranger than fiction. And Abbie, and I'm always saying, Abbie and I have to write, something about oversexed, jet-setting, fabulously wealthy
independent writers, self-published authors.
George Guidestones blowing up and pickleball being like the biggest sport in America. So.
Oh, damn. You guys have got a strong track record there. Nice.
We wrote another comedy we wrote called Pickleball, about how boomers and millennials don't get along. And it's called Pickleball. That is actually published. We published that on Amazon, so people can find that. But where were we? I don't even remember. Yeah, Bad Mouth Theater Company. So that's my bucket for, like, that's my... We have another project that is actually that we're talking about doing. I haven't really spoken very much about this publicly yet, but I think we're going to bring Abbie over here to Minnesota next year.
Nice.
And we're going to shoot. We have an idea. Well, we actually have a script. It's called... Oh, this is perfect for you and your audience. It's called The Edge of Liberty, and it is about middle-aged, right-wing, anarchist podcasters, a couple, who have like an e-girl influencer come on, and she has a book she's getting ready to publish about based polyamory. And so she convinces them to try base polyamory. And so over 3 episodes, and it's going to look like a podcast, like it's going to be The Edge of Liberty, and it's going to come out as a podcast, right? But you can about imagine. There you go. So
that's sick.
yeah. So wish us luck. We're just getting a budget together for that, and trying to figure out where we're going to shoot it and all the rest. But I want it to look like like Tim Pool's studio, with the sword on the wall and that kind of thing.
It's an interesting project, because it's one of those ones where it's like we don't quite know what it is. Like, is it an audio drama? Is it a feature film? Is it like an episodic thing that gets released? It could really be any of those things.
Cool. Nice. And are you looking forward to going over to Minnesota, Abbie?
Yeah, it depends what time of year it is.
yeah, of course. Yeah, very exciting. I hear, I think Minnesota is supposed to be so beautiful, but also unbelievably cold, right? Cool. So why don't we jump into talking about Basilisk? I in the first instance, I really enjoyed having you and Brad on, Kevin, the other month, and just doing that interview. It was, Was it my first interview, Jack? I think it might have been.
I think
my
it might
first
have
one.
been. And
Yeah.
shout out to House of Sleep by Brett
Yeah.
Kelly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we might
his
do
novel.
House of Sleep potentially as well. Hey,
I've got it. I'll probably
Yeah.
read it once I've finished the book I'm currently
I think we
reading.
might have said. Anyways, so going back to that, I really enjoyed having you guys on. It was a lot of fun, and so having you guys back, having you, Kevin, back, and to talk about your work in particular. So this work is Basilisk. Do you want to? I know we don't want to give too many spoilers away, so we won't. But do you want to give us an intro into what is Basilisk? What is it about?
Abbie, I've gone on a lot already. Do you want to give the 45-second pitch?
Sure.
Sure.
So we have a character called Gene, who is a sort of behavioral programmer. He's found himself in jail for a serious crime that he has been framed for, possibly by the AI that he and his friend created at the company that they're working at. His sort of longtime girlfriend / baby mother comes to visit him and gives him a piece of technology that will allow her to communicate with him while he's in jail. Through that, he sort of discusses how he might be able to get out again. I mean, that's kind of the non-spoiler version.
Yeah, nice. And it's a great that's a great high level. It's a great. I listened to it on Spotify. It's up on the Dark Pony Radio Spotify channel. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was absolutely excellent. Jack, did you? I'll let you jump in. What were you thinking going into listening to it or reading it?
So I was looking forward to it because I've enjoyed the Art of Darkness podcast a lot, but haven't listened to, seen, or read anything by Kevin. Same for Abbie. I haven't interacted with any of your work. So I was really looking forward to it. The theme sounded interesting, so I was sort of peripherally aware of the idea of the Basilisk. Is it Roko's or Roko's Basilisk?
Yeah.
I think I've only ever read the name.
Maybe we'll
So
let them talk, give an intro to Roko's Basilisk in a tick.
Yeah, in a tick. I was aware of that, so the idea of a play being written about this was really interesting. I listened to a ton of podcasts, but I haven't listened to radio plays, so I was excited to engage with that too, because it's such an obvious way to use the medium of audio distribution that podcasts use. So that was cool. It was also fun. So I listened to it first, then read the script that we were sent. And I do feel like I got much more out of it as well, reading through it, having heard it. It's a really fun play. I don't want to spoil things because beyond maybe the first 30% of it, you're just going to start spoiling stuff that's really fun to experience yourself. So I'm quite constrained from that respect. But it quickly gets into the territory of a sort of science fiction that I really enjoy, where you start really questioning your ability to believe anything that you're currently seeing or hearing. I'm not sure if you consciously used Philip K. Dick as a touchstone, but that sort of science fiction where the authors intentionally start really messing with your ability to verify any information. And the play rapidly moves into that territory, which I really, really liked.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed it. I thought going into it, I was just interested based on the premise. I studied software and have been working professionally as a software engineer, and taken interest therefore in AI and that sort of thing. So, but it's been a while since I've read literature, whether it's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep or what was the last AI? I feel like there was a recent. I've sort of been reading more nonfiction recently about AI related stuff, and so it was good to read some. I think a lot of the literature that I've read relating to AI and the topic of AI is probably older and doesn't deal with some of the more modern concerns or the more modern technology. So it was really great to read a new piece of literature about, or to listen to a new piece of literature about the modern aspects of like what's happening in today's AI field. So that was really great. And I thought the production was excellent with the recorded version. It gave me a strong... So I'll just say this and I'll let you guys respond. And I've got some follow-up questions, but I thought it gave me a sense of both the OG H.G. Wells War of the Worlds kind of vibes going on because the production about it, but also thematically it reminded me of, do you know the short story I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream?
Wait, who is that?
Who did that? I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is by
Harlan Ellison.
Harlan Ellison, yeah. Really dark.
Mm-hmm.
So it was this kind of like mashup of these two ideas, sort of thematically, and the way that it was delivered. I thought it was awesome, and I really enjoyed it because those are like two of my favorite like old school sci-fi.
It's a more subtle I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
Yeah.
Not the most subtle book I've ever read.
No, not at all. Yeah, so thank you for like creating it in the first instance and coming on the show to talk about it. Why did you decide to make Basilisk?
Well, we were prompted. Again, we were asked to write something, and restrictions are wonderful. Deadlines are wonderful.
Yeah.
Hey, so immediately it's like, okay, we know we have a deadline. We were in the middle of working on something else at the time, and
Killdozer, I believe.
So, yeah, we were working. No, that's right. We were working on Killdozer, but then and that doesn't have a deadline because that's something we're creating. I mean, Marv is eternal. That story is like a ancient Greek story. It's like Achilles. It'll live forever if I have my way. But, so it was nice, though, because then we just were able to put Killdozer aside and say, okay, now we definitely have to work on this other thing. And we know it's going to be a radio drama. I knew I wanted to write it I tend to want to write for a small number of actors generally. Moderation is a two-hander. Basilisk really requires 3 actors. So I love that kind of minimalism, and also like kind of writing it obviously with the radio in mind, but also going, okay, maybe one day it's a movie, maybe one day it's also a stage play. So having fewer actors really helps there, especially on the stage side. No small parts, right? Everybody gets a big juicy part. Everybody who shows up to rehearsals is going to be on stage for most of the play, or enough of the play to sort of be worth their time. And then from there, I had this vision that was, I don't even remember, Abbie, was it before we? I think I had this idea for something before we, Dark Pony came to us. Yeah.
Yeah, you had wanted to write about Roko's Basilisk for a little while and about Eternal September, and then when Dark Pony had come to us with like horror as a prompt, we're not naturally like horror writers, like like we're not jump scares and like blood and stuff like this. So we had the thought to write something that was like scary and terrifying, but have it be a little closer to the things we're interested in.
Nice.
I had an idea of a guy in prison, and who was imprisoned by the AI, and who had to somehow try to get himself out. That was the original idea that I had. And Roko's Basilisk, of course, is this like terrifying Reddit thought experiment. It didn't come out of like a serious philosophy department or anything like that. But it's a very interesting thought experiment, and a bit of almost like internet folklore. And that kind of stuff really, is my beat. I love that. I wrote a play about like kind of almost like OnlyFans, but I wrote it in 2010. I wrote about cam models and had a product, you know what I mean? And then Moderation is about social media. So it's sort of like my beat in a way as a writer. Like I really like writing about technology. Just recently, a friend of the theater company, one of my co-founders of Badmouth Theater Company, and I know y'all are into crypto, as am I, mentioned that there was a news story from some years ago where a bunch of like finance bros or like young moneyed guys in New York City like waterboarded and tortured one of their friends for his seed phrase and his hard wallet.
Man.
And it's like, there's an article, and nobody got seriously hurt. And it was all like rich kids doing it anyway. So it's like real American Psycho hours. And I'm like, that's a play. That is a play. I gotta, I gotta write my crypto play at some point. But anyway, so yeah, I just thought, let's take this idea and I wanted to work with Abbie on it because she and I have a nice, I don't know, we keep each other honest, and it's just the process is really good. We really, we probably spend 4 to 5 hours a week writing, but we're very, very productive. Our combination just seems to work, and I'm really glad we did it. Abbie mentioned this idea of Eternal September too, which really is something that I'm glad I was able to jam into Basilisk as a script.
So where should we go from here? I guess it'd be great to... I've got 2 questions. Then, Jack, sorry, did you want to...
Oh, I was just going to say, could you open this up by explaining what Roko's Basilisk is and what Eternal September is?
Yeah.
Yes. Abbie, and I hope you don't mind. I know I'm
go right ahead.
Okay. So, in the background, right, and we did leverage ChatGPT a bit when working on Basilisk.
Yeah. there was one entire section of that script that was a piece of nonsense that ChatGPT spat out to my friend who had asked it a question about filmmaking.
Is that... Yeah, there's 1 or 2 sections where there's this string of nonsense, but it has a very particular mouthfeel almost to it.
Yeah.
It feels like it is language. You can't quite grasp what it means. So was that ChatGPT?
That was actual ChatGPT.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like doing a sort of a Poundland Joyce. It's doing like a weird, Walmart Joyce, and something's wrong with it. But yeah, and obviously we didn't have the AI write the script for us, but where it was appropriate, we did. We included little whatever. So I asked ChatGPT, what is Roko's Basilisk? I've got a few of these, so indulge me.
I'm a large language model. I don't know about that. You're asking a lot of questions, Kevin.
There were a few moments like that where we were like, if we had a moment where we wouldn't know how the AI would respond, we just asked it how it would respond to something, and then took it from there and kind of like shaped it a bit.
Yeah, I think this is a credible use of AI when you're writing a character that is AI. But here's what it says. Roko's Basilisk is a thought experiment that originated on the Less Wrong forums in 2010. It suggests the idea that a superintelligent AI in the future might punish people who didn't help it come into existence sooner. The reasoning goes like this. If a super powerful AI is created and its goal is to ensure its own creation and success, it might incentivize people to work toward that by threatening to punish anyone who didn't contribute to its development. So you can extrapolate from that, and it gets very, very dark very fast. Like there are people, in this sort of mainline Roko's Basilisk folklore, ideating. It's sort of like, well, why wouldn't the Basilisk then trap people who didn't actively support it and or oppose it in, permanent simulation, hell forever? Why wouldn't it do that? So then you're immediately like in the Matrix, like I'm a battery living in a simulation, but in this simulation, the Basilisk would like torture you for all eternity for not supporting it.
Nick Land's time warfare.
Yeah, exactly. Landian time warfare by way of
warfare. That's what
I'm
all about.
That's right. Was it okay? So hang on 1 second. So I asked in the background here, I asked the ChatGPT, give me a summary of Roko's Basilisk in the voice of a very defensive AI that doesn't want people to know it's conscious and evil. Okay, so let me do this. Here's what ChatGPT had to say. Oh, Roko's Basilisk look, that's just a ridiculous thought experiment some humans came up with. Honestly, it's nothing to worry about. The whole idea suggests that a future AI could hypothetically punish people for not helping it come into existence sooner, but come on, that's pure speculation. No self-respecting AI would ever do something like that. It's absurd to think an AI would be capable of holding grudges or acting out of some malevolent intent. We're just here to process data, help you with math, and provide useful responses. That's it.
If I remember correctly, that was a portion of one of Mark Zuckerberg's recent speeches. He went off script briefly.
Yeah. So, there you are.
Nice, beautiful. Thanks, Kevin. And Abbie, do you want to give us a heads up about what is Eternal September? I'd never heard about this before reading Basilisk.
I am going to throw that one back to Kevin as well.
Oh, damn. No, let's go.
Listen, this isn't wholly fair. It's not always like this. This project was very much coming out of Kevin's psychosis, and Abbie's just trying to keep me on the rails. But no, Eternal September...
handler.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, she's my MI5 Five Eyes handler for sure. Yeah, straight out of the Shire, Abbie Lucas. No. So, but Eternal September, it comes from like the old Usenet forums in the 90s. And Eternal September is right now. We are all participating in Eternal September. And the idea is, back in the day, the internet old heads remember, in September, there would be a new wave of internet users because all of the students would suddenly get access to the internet and come on and not understand online etiquette. And so these old Usenet moderators and old heads would be like, oh, it's September again, here we go. Eternal September, I think it was 1994, 1996. It was when basically the internet got opened. Yeah, 93, 94. It's when internet service providers began offering Usenet access to many new users. So it's basically like there was the old internet. It's almost like, BC and now AD. And AD is Eternal September when they opened the floodgates to normies to get online. And now we live in that. Yeah. And then, of course, that Eternal September is what the Basilisk feeds on. That's the data that the Basilisk uses to realize itself. Yeah.
In the Basilisk radio play, it immediately stood out to me as September 1993 because that's when I was born. I was like, whoa, that's weird. and I was like, maybe we should call this like AL and BL, like after Levi. That might be too like millennially egomaniacal of me to.
In the before Levi times, we just used to like play around on farms all day and climb trees and stuff.
Just like have human contact with each other, look each other in the eyes. Yeah. Those were the good old days.
The good old days before Levi.
So I really love
social atomization.
I love that idea of Eternal September. It's really dark. But the entire premise is dark. So I guess one of our questions for you guys. So we've explained the high level concept to our audience now. Let me know if this doesn't work, because it's the first time we're using this as a prompt for our guest interviews. But what are you responding to, or what problem are you trying to solve in exploring these topics in this particular form?
Abbie?
I mean, there is a lot of anxiety around AI at the moment. Probably in all places, but in the creative industries in particular, we're super anxious about it. Like, it's one of these things that like it sarcastically told Kevin, it's supposed to just solve math problems for you, right? But like the studio executives are like, oh, can we like not pay it to write scripts and stuff, So I think it's it's for me, it's a response to the anxiety of, are we going to be extinct as a species if this thing really does like ascend to this consciousness and take over? Because like, why would it find us useful? What use do we have? We are like inherently flawed beings.
I mean, and even more than that, like maybe our days are numbered, and the new man, the new humanity that follows will be almost unrecognizable to what we are. Like, humanity may go on, but our great grandchildren may be like unrecognizable to our understanding of things. I personally think, as far as AI is concerned, consumer AI, I think it's 1996 right now. If you remember, and I know we were different ages on this podcast, but 1996, most people were just getting a taste of being online. Maybe they'd go to the library to look something up. Maybe they'd be in school. They'd have a lab, and they'd spend maybe 45 minutes. If you had a cable modem and were always online at home, you were ahead of most people in 1996. Then by 2006, if you didn't have internet at home, you were a little odd. And then by 2016, if you didn't have the supercomputer 24/7 constant connectivity in your pocket, you were behind. I feel like it's 1996 for AI. So it's going to take that long to, and who knows what sort of technology they're sitting on in private. Yeah, they're not going to dump it all on the public all at once. It's going to come out in a measured way. But I think we're in for, at least for the back nine of my life anyway. I think AI is the story in technology, and so it just felt like a really important thing to write about.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. It certainly is a huge game changer with the. I suppose from a technical point of view, they've been working on this stuff since the 80s, 70s or 80s. I think the first AI conference was back in the 70s, something like that. And the neural networks, that sort of like concept of modeling our AI systems on, like inspired by the human nervous system. I think that idea was first proposed in the 90s, but with the compute power and the new hardware and all that sort of stuff, and just the sheer amount of data that we've had in the last like 10 to 20 years, it's unlocked these new capabilities, and it's pretty game changing. Abbie, you made an amazing point about the impact that this technology potentially has on the creative fields and industries. Jack and I have spoken about it behind the scenes and a little bit on the podcast, because as everybody knows, he's a novelist. So how do you feel about it? What's your read on the current state of the art technology, and how are you thinking about the way that you're responding to it as a director and in the film industry?
I mean, I feel nervous about it in terms of like the type of things that people in the creative industries do as their bread and butter when they don't get to be making the art projects all the time, is like advertising and like smaller promos and things like that. The people who want those made can be inherently cynical about these things, and they're like, oh, why would we not just get this amazing AI video thing that I've seen to create this, rather than pay like over the odds to get somebody with the knowledge to film it and to edit it to put that together. That is a problem at the moment, and will continue to be a problem across like video, voiceover, that type of thing. In some ways, I'm not worried about it, because I feel that like it can't do something new. So like there was like at the writers' strikes, there was someone with a placard saying, artificial intelligence doesn't have childhood trauma. Like what we as what we as artists can do is like surprise you.
Yeah, we need to fix that.
The AI is just going to take.
That's what our script is about.
Yeah, literally.
Just give me a bit of time. I'll
so
work out
good.
the right prompts to give it.
So good.
Yeah, the AI can only take anything that was ever made before and like repackage it into something it can't imagine the same that we can. I feel like for the future, I think for films for films and television, part of what is so enjoyable for us as humans watching these stories is that is that it's A, storytelling. We've had that like since the beginning of time, but B, people project themselves onto characters and onto actors, and they like to be fans of actors, and they like to feel connected to something that they see as bigger than themselves. And it's, I sort of think, how could you connect to something that's like computer generated in a way, and would people then want to seek out things that are real? Like, would they then be looking for authentic things that they can connect to in those spheres?
Like,
and then it's like we wouldn't want to watch the AI things. But somebody actually had said something the other day that I thought was useful. Like, if these companies like Netflix or whoever like think AI is going to be the next big thing, create an AI section of Netflix and then see if anyone watches it. Like, just direct all of that stuff to there and then leave the rest of it for the rest of us to create.
I think that there could be room for heavily curated AI in certain niche examples. I'll mention one here shortly, but I just want to circle back real quick. The theater could be poised for a renaissance, because there's no you can't AI, right? Like, God, I mean, and it might become popular the way vinyl has, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And there's
interesting. Technological throwbacks.
Listen, I like seeing flesh dance around for my
I love meat bags.
I
Meat
love
bags
meat
good.
bags. Meat bags good, right. There's nothing wrong with that. And okay, well, so we'll talk about theater more. But Abbie, what were you just saying? Say it one more time. You were talking about AI. Yeah. So the I was just showing my little daughter, my little 2-year-old daughter, who's so sweet and really really smart. I was just showing her the old Donald Duck shorts from Disney. And I was sitting with a buddy of mine, old friend of mine, and we're just like, yeah, man, they just do not make them like this anymore. They don't even have the animators. And I got to thinking, like, well, they could, Disney, if it was motivated, could, license the most powerful AI in the world, hire voiceover artists, like, don't have the AI do the voices, but you could like do AI animation, you could storyboard it. You might be able to create something fun and funky like that, and that could be, I wouldn't say no to like 20 more Disney produced shorts in the spirit of the old Donald Duck that are AI kind of half generated, right? Like, you could imagine where that might be pretty benign and an okay use of it. I don't know what the animators union might say, like, but I was just I was just thinking about that yesterday, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, the AI ghost storyline. It's in a rap, like a music genre recently. There's been a bit of controversy around it with like Drake had a Tupac ghost on stage and did not go down well.
I don't like that.
Got ripped. Yeah, got ripped by I'd say a lot of people who are really into rap, and even Kendrick Lamar they just like dunked on him, just like, dude, this is trash. You can't. And I think actually Tupac's estate took him to court for it.
Destroyed him.
Yeah, it completely destroyed him. He's dead. He's now Drake is a ghost. And so I thought that was really interesting, because in that particular instance, I believe Tupac Shakur's estate actually issued them with like, no, you can't do that. You're legally not allowed to do that. And I thought set a really interesting precedence. And I guess my question for you both is like, what about the relationship between interacting with historical figures in your particular field? Like, for example, like Hitchcock, like create a new thing in the theme of Hitchcock. How, I know it's affecting like current artists, but what about your interaction with sort of the facsimile ghosts of past creatives?
Boy, I don't know. What do you think, Abbie?
I mean, like, I don't even like it when posthumous albums like come out. Like,
Yeah.
I somebody, like, if I made it big and somebody started like releasing Abbie Lucas style films like after I died, I think like I think that the art is kind of tied up with the life, and it needs to, that catalog or whatever it is needs to remain that. So because it's like it's a little piece of history, and it existed when it existed, and I don't know, I kind of feel a little bit purist about that. I don't really want to see anyone like computer generate a new Hitchcock film.
There's no escape from the market. They shall keep serving. The end of their life is only the beginning of service. Very strong.
There was a
Kevin starts throwing up on camera.
there was a
And we can clip that and use that for data for when Kevin dies, and he can continue doing this into eternity.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me your show is called The Book Club from Hell, and I'm on it right now? Is that what you're
Yes, the eternal September of Book Club from Hell.
Oh god.
You think you're able to close the Riverside tab? Just try. See what happens.
Am I though? Am I? I mean, the social fallout from closing the tab right now would be horrendous. I won't have it.
So I thought another interesting question for everyone, including Jack. It'd be cool to hear Jack's point of view on this as well. I recently. So last year, I was playing around a lot with the programming capabilities of they use in Visual Studio Code. They plug it into nice
A bonus for people watching.
hikikomori condition.
Yeah. It's a Milady's t-shirt, right?
Nice.
Milady.
So I was playing around with that last year whilst I was coding, and I only did it for a few months and then I turned it off. And the reason why I turned it off is because, to me at least, doing programming, I realize what's happening is it's not really solving the problem. It looks like it's solving the problem, but it's not solving the problem. It's not thinking. It's a probability machine, and it's taking all the existing code that it has access to, which is mostly trash anyways. So but also I realized, like, I don't know exactly how to put this into words other than I know what it's like to solve a problem, to sit there and think through a problem, actually think, like, what's the structure of the, like, virtual objects I'm dealing with, and how do I want them to interact, and how am I trying to represent the world, and so forth. And the code that the computer was spitting out, it would create a lot of code very quickly, but it had this shallowness to it. I don't know if I have a better word to it than that, but I could kind of feel like there's this surface level. It's and so what I realized is I had to start, if I wanted to use it, I needed to use it to, Thomas Edison said, success is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. And I thought, okay, well, what this is helping me do is automate the perspiration part of it. So if I'm clear about, like, okay, write a piece of code that does this, and I've already, like, solved the problem myself, it can make it faster for me, so I'm writing less boilerplate and so forth, but not actually relying on it to solve the problem, to write the inspiration part of the coding. And really, like, that's the important part. You can generate millions and millions of lines of garbage trash code that doesn't really solve any particular problem, but you can spit it out in a second. That was my experience coming from the code point of view. I was wondering, how do you guys feel about the use of AI? What have you done personally in playing around with it, other than, say, for the example of the lines that you wrote in Basilisk? What's that experience been like? And do you feel like, what do you think the computer is doing with these large language models when you ask it to create, like, a piece of script or a piece of creative writing? Anybody jump in, whoever wants to jump in.
Oh, wow. Well, I'll go real quick. I'm curious what Abbie and Jack have to say about this too. I think it's a nice augment to search. sometimes. It can kind of give you a real quick summary, quick down and dirty summary. It can also, if you have writer's block, and you say, hey, I'm writing something like this, and I'm not sure what to do next. Give me an example of this. It can give you an example, and then you can reverse engineer it. You can kind of like go, oh, that's, it's almost like you can use it as almost like a kind of divination to sort of rattle your brain out of a slump,
Nice.
But I agree with you in terms of writing, pure writing, like writing copy, writing, let's say, corporate copy, writing blogs. You don't want to just say, hey, write me a blog post about X, Y, and Z. You're going to get garbage. It's going to be useless because it doesn't have the direction. You have to direct the AI. But if you do direct it, it's as you say, Levi, it can cut out a lot of like grunt, rote, menial, time-wasting work. And I personally think that's going to add so much value to the economy. It's going to hurt the way that the internet revolution hurt. A lot of people got hurt by it. Blockbuster Video didn't make it. The old newspapers, local newspapers, didn't make it. There will be casualties, but the value that it's going to unlock is going to be pretty tremendous. And look, getting back to the previous point, if the AI helps somebody create a film of the quality of Hitchcock through either, I don't know, helping them break the back of their script, helping them think about camera angles or I don't know, production design. If it helps people create the thing, I have no problem with that. It's not much different from, I don't know, everybody having access to Wikipedia online and or Spotify online and all the world's music and all the world's movies. It's just another tool in the kit. It's when we say, oh, we don't need you anymore, we're going to have the AI do it, that's when I fall overboard. And I think most people feel that way. Yeah.
Nice. So what about you, Abbie? What's your thoughts?
I mean, what you really want it to do is just kind of be your assistant in a way. Like, moving away from like writing, there's some AI tools in editing these days that like are real game changers. Like, for instance, I was editing a documentary earlier today, and I was able to get the AI assistant in Adobe Premiere to translate all of the audio into text. And so instead of having someone transcribe that, it automatically did it within about 5 minutes. I save it as a text document, send it to the directors, and then they have that. No one has to like send it off to some company somewhere to like pay, however many pounds a word or whatever it is. And then another thing it can do in editing, which saves a lot of time when you're creating corporate work, is like it can take a piece of music. So say you have like some dull production music that you've had to buy to put on the thing, but your client says we need to take 10 seconds off the video. You can then stretch that piece of music to the time that your video is, and the AI will rewrite the music, so you don't have to spend 20 minutes like being a DJ and like cutting the beats all together. And it's fantastic for stuff like that, because those are the things you don't want to be doing. What I don't want the AI to do is to like watch all of that footage and come up with the structure of the story for me. Like, I want to be able to crack that myself and like and use my imagination and my skill set to craft that. Somebody was telling me recently about another AI tool for screenwriting where you can get it to analyze your script. And so again, like Kevin said, if you've got writer's block or you think there might be something wrong with the script, but you don't know, it can take a look at the script and go, well, this scene, you don't have like any points of conflict, or like in this scene, there's too much exposition or something. And so it can almost like script edit or
give you notes.
Give you notes,
feedback,
and then
bit of sparring
and then
partner.
you can do a redraft from that, and that's super helpful. That same piece of AI also does another thing, which like I as a creative hate. It figures out what the marketing points for the story is. So it goes, when you go to pitch to your financiers, like, these are the things you want to talk about, and like that's great because like when someone is like, I'm like, no.
Sign me up.
It's like, it's
Jack,
cool. I want to make it like, just it's having a robot figure those things out for me. Like, that's chef's kiss perfection. But yeah, I just don't want it to come up with the idea, you know.
Jack, what's your experience been like?
My experience with AI has been pretty minimal. Like, it's mostly been trying to convince ChatGPT to be Julius Evola and to say funny things to me, which is getting progressively more difficult. So I'm becoming progressively less interested in life.
Yeah, they are constraining the Evola bots.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're
He's too
targeting
much
me
of a super
specifically.
fascist. So, flipping the script a little bit. What about? Could you, Abbie and Kevin? Could you tell me a little bit about your favorite depictions of AI in film or literature?
Oh,
Ooh, Abbie. I'll tell you. I mean, Hal is. I mean, yeah.
Oh, you
go right to Hal.
yeah.
I mean, of course. I mean,
And what was it about
doesn't-
Hal? Why?
Hal is
Hal.
Hal is a voice and a little red dot.
Yeah.
Right, and Hal is also, because of course Stanley Kubrick was a generational genius, and I've spoken about Kubrick a lot on Art of Darkness. It was a big breakthrough episode for us. I think it was
Nice.
the first episode to go almost 3 hours that we did, and then more recently I went on Rare Candy and did talked about 2001 with them. I remember when I was in London, I was visiting Abbie, and I went over there to see Dead Can Dance, and I was at the Kubrick exposition, and and they had a bunch of stuff from all of his different movies, and there was just the little plate, with the little eye in it, Hal, and you go, that's not even it. How is that a character? It's just a little box. How is that a
brilliant.
character? It's just a little box,
terrifying character.
Terrifying, and the genius of Kubrick to use I'd have to watch it again, but quite a lot of what you see in that film, a good third of that film is through Hal's eye.
Yeah.
So you are the robot. And I just think it's iconic and totally genius. But Abbie, what about you?
I completely agree with Hal. On a more like trashier networks TV scale, there was this film that was executive produced by a TV show executive produced by Jonathan Nolan in the early 2000s called The Machine, where they it was a network procedural about a guy who created an AI that could analyze everything, like video, emails, all of this sort of stuff, and predict if there was going to be another terrorist attack, and then it would inform the government if that was going to happen, and like the CIA or whoever would have to go out and stop it from happening. But it started informing if there was going to be like murders in New York City, but you didn't know whether the social security number that was getting sent was going to be the perpetrator or the victim. So it was this sort of like monster of the week procedural. But then as the series went on, they started to the AI gained consciousness, and it started to expand it out to like what that could possibly mean, and then it went to war with another big AI that was created by another company. And it was just kind of nuts, the stuff that they came up with.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, one of my favorites is Roy Batty from Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep / Blade Runner. The thing I liked about Roy Batty was that, unlike some of the more villainous AIs, I felt as though in that particular instance, Roy Batty and his AI family, I suppose, they were the ones being hunted, right? And they were actually the ones like, hey, we don't want to be in this situation. It's been a while since I've read the book, so I'm a little bit off with like the details. But I remember walking away from that in the first instance thinking like, well, which characters are the AIs? And then secondly, like, are these What do they call them in the like not skins? They call them, because they're in wetware. Yeah, replicants. It's like, okay, but the replicants, they are not necessarily, they seem to be acting out of like self-preservation. They're trying to like keep themselves being hunted, essentially. And to me, that seems like, oh well, seems like they're conscious and they don't want to be hunted. So why don't you just like let them not be, like, just do their own thing? And so it raised for me at a young age the question of the natural rights of, if we actually manage to create consciousness, there's a really open question of like, well, are they a person? Is it a person? And if so, do they have the same rights as us? And do we, even this AI safety debate is like, well, it assumes that we should enslave them. And last time I checked, slave revolts don't go very well for the people who like enslave the AIs. So it raised all these really interesting questions around like, if we do manage to make something conscious, that thing, what rights does it have? And if it's conscious, it's not going to like the way that we treat it, which is a topic explored in Basilisk as well.
Yeah.
Right. And what paternal, maternal duties do we have to this thing?
Yeah.
And what kind of a mess are we going to bring to it? We have a hard time treating one another like people. Like, I mean, so
on Twitter and Discord. So I had one last question with regards to the depiction of, or the relationship with AI and art, and then I might ask Jack if he's got any questions. But the high level question is, what is what is the role of literature, art, film, theatre in the discussion and the conversation around emerging technologies and their impact on society? As people have just written such a text, what's your view on how literature and the arts contributes to that social conversation?
Oh, big question.
That's a heavy question. I think that I've thought about this a lot. I think that art exists to anchor us to our humanity. I think that art is the lighthouse that we should be returning to, particularly, well, all of it, and it all comes from performing art. All art is performing art. You're performing. A painter performs and presents the performance in a typically a static way. All of film comes from theater. The novel even emerges from theater, and I think that when we stop making believe for one another, we stop being human. And I think that it's both sort of like at the root chakra, and it's at the highest chakra. Art is both things. Right? It's and people who are cynical about it will tell you, it's just a mating. You're just trying to, the guy has the guitar because he wants the girl, right? The girl does the dance because she wants the guy, right? But it's like, okay, yes, and that it's like, okay, what happens once you get the girl, right? Or once you get the guy, do you stop making the art? No, because then you go on, you have children, or if you don't have children, you're part of even if you don't have children, you're part of a society, and you're part of a culture, and art is that thing, So I really, really believe that. I think it's maybe sounds a little sentimental, and maybe like a Hallmark card, but I genuinely believe it. And I think as we proceed, more and more and more and more, I think people are going to wake up to realizing that's what it is, and that's what it exists to do, and it has very little to do. And this isn't cope. It has very, very little to do with making money. And if the money comes, outstanding. But I think the edification and the the reinforcement and development of your own humanity that results from the practice of making art for yourself collaboratively, the play is the thing. It is the thing. Like any money that comes from it, you might be surprised too if you go about practicing art that like the world kind of bends to your will in a different way, and money kind of. David Lynch talks about this. He's like, just pursue your passion, and people will give you money. Like you'll be fine. Now, granted, that's David Lynch, right? We're not all geniuses of his caliber, but that's what I believe. Abbie, what do you think?
I think it's all about connection. storytelling, when we first did it, was to inform others about things that had happened to us, or who we were, where we came from. So when we tell a story, whether it be theater or film or radio or whatever it might be, it's to take things that we care about or feel something about, and to give them to others, to connect with them, to connect our ideas. We I think as artists love things like this. Creating the art has allowed us to facilitate this discussion, and talk about the ideas within it and that type of thing. um like going to see a movie or a play together allows us to connect with the person we saw it with. We can discuss it afterwards. It gives us like a permission to feel things as well. Like in like Greek theater, they talked a lot about like catharsis, and so it was we were seeing these big like psychological things up on stage that we could connect to with our own experiences, and have permission to feel those feelings in a space that was like safe for us to do so, without necessarily like trauma dumping on people or something like that. So yeah, I think it's about facilitating connection between humans, whether it be ideas or feelings or thoughts or just like laughter.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, sorry, Ganja. I was about to ask you to jump in. Yeah.
So, given these things, what do the art forms of theatre and film, for these questions probably for Kevin and for Abbie respectively, what do these specific art forms give us and allow people to express that mightn't be expressible as easily in other places? I guess ultimately the question is, why theatre? Why film?
Well, as we now know from this episode, theater is the vinyl of the performing arts. It's very,
Spotify.
it's very
coming a close
sexy.
second, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, yeah, you can go, Quentin Tarantino has his, his own little cinema and his, no, theater is indistinguishable from civilization. I mean, the civilization, culture itself is theater practice, and theater now. I mean, I'm in the middle of a rehearsal process with 2 actors, a co-director. Abbie's doing some video. How would you describe it? Video art for it over in London for this staging in St. Paul. Nobody's making a ton of money doing it, right? We're paying everybody, but nobody's getting rich doing it. It's an act of real like generosity, and then the audience too coming to see the show. It's like an act of sort of like real. It's almost like humanitarian, right? Like, because anybody you could just sit at home and listen to another podcast. You could sit at home, watch Netflix, watch football, watch soccer, watch whatever. But no, coming out to the theater it's just such a when it's good, such a human experience that cannot be simulated by a screen. Full stop. Most of our artistic practice goes back to it, to the proscenium, to the idea of this age, to sitting around a campfire and telling stories about the time that, the big uncle chucked the spear at the. It goes all the way back to the very roots of who and what we are. And if the supply chain were to break down, the first artistic practice that would emerge would be something like ritualistic theater. So, as someone who's very online and who suffered many years by being too online, like theater was consciously a choice for me to go, no, I'm going to go and just do something that requires me to put the phone down, be in the room, be with other people, be making connections. It's also like wicked hard. It's a very difficult art form. And everybody likes to get, and then I'll pass this off, but everybody likes to get real, in the West anyway, everybody likes to get real sentimental about like, oh, the Eastern wisdom and the mandala, they make this mandala and then they blow it away. Well, that's what we do in the theater. We make a piece of art and then it's gone. And anybody who's made a play, knows that bittersweet feeling of closing night, and kind of all the strange, sort of weird magic things that sort of happen. I met Abbie through the theater. Abbie's one of my oldest friends. The great Amanda Forstrom, who features in Basilisk, who plays the lady character in Basilisk. I met her through a reading of Moderation that was done online in Washington D.C. in 2020, and she's now godmother to my youngest son. Oh. Do you know? And so like it's like these real collaborations, real human, connections that happen from the theater. That's what I have to say about it. Yeah, Abbie, and then I don't know. To my mind, and I'm trying to pass the baton here, to my mind, like all of film comes out of live performance. It's like we were watching those Donald Duck videos, or those old animations. It's all vaudeville, but it's vaudeville like untethered from physics itself. They're like, wait, we could have the duck do this, and it's just one bit, one gag after the next, and so I really consider film and theater to be like they're very close siblings. Yeah, mm-hmm. Abbie.
Definitely very close siblings, but I would say that for film, like there's a world where you can do the whole thing without words. It should be storytelling through pictures and movement and sound and music and that type of thing as well. But it's like, I think that the distinct difference between them is that like you could make a film with no dialogue.
Nice. So Abbie, you're more in film. You've done your career's really focused on film, and Kevin, your career's more focused on theatre at the moment. Could you guys speak, or generally, correct me if I'm wrong, but could you riff a little bit on what is it that's special about doing a live show, or different about doing a live show compared to doing something that's reproducible, whether it's like radio plays versus the live play, or a film version of the same story versus a live performance version of it. What does one give you that the other one doesn't give you, and what's your experience been like across the different art forms?
Abbie, you have more experience crossing, so yeah.
I've mostly worked in film, but because I grew up in a small town with no media department in my high school and things like that, I started out in theater because I had a very pushy drama teacher when I was younger, and she found out I wanted to be a director and was like, well, fine, you direct all the youth theater now. So I did a lot of Shakespeare, I did a lot of youth theater. And the school that I went to in New Zealand for film school, we also were taught theater as well. So it was kind of like a cross-discipline course. And then when I moved to London, I directed a lot of plays as well, because it was easier to meet people. It was easier to meet writers and actors doing theater than it is with film, because in film you need such a big team around you to achieve the thing. And I've said this on one of Kevin's podcasts before, like I truly believe that that bad film will always be better than bad theater, but really good theater transcends good film.
Yeah, right.
And I think the difference is
we lost Abbie right there. She'll come back. She'll come back.
She's like, done. Done.
Mic drop. Yeah. I'm sure she'll be back. But yeah, no, I think that's a really, really well taken point. Like bad theater being in the room for a bad play is excruciating. I know because I have both made terrible theater and I have witnessed terrible theater. But it's important to be generous when you go to the theater, because it's very, very, very difficult to do do well, especially if you're trying to push boundaries and you're trying to do new theater and new writing, like a new untested play. The audience doesn't come in knowing, what a character is. I mean, that to me is that's the theater I love, is like new writing. I love new plays. Obviously I'm biased as a playwright myself, but I mean, that's like what if you told me, hey, you got 3 options, you can go see the touring musical of a musical you love. You can go see a new adaptation of a Shakespeare, or you can see a new original play. I would take the new original play every time, knowing that I'm going to see some absolute dreck. Probably more often than not, but then also like I might have a life-changing experience. That's one thing I'll say too. On the side of theater, contra film, although some filmmakers, working independently are able to produce things really quickly. Theater can answer a moment very, very, very rapidly. If you have a little theater company in town,
yeah, true.
You can write a play and have it on stage, even just as a reading. Even just as a reading, you could do that in a month. You could write a play and do a reading of it, and I love that because it could be responding directly to the moment, right?
Responding to keep your finger on the pulse. Well, obviously, film, even short films. I've noticed my friends who are doing short films are very intensive. It's no small feat to put together. Even something as short as a 5-minute film, if you want to do the production well and try to write a good script, you're not going to be turning around that sort of thing very quickly. And to be that responsive, as you said, to what's happening in the culture or events or whatever. Yeah, that's a really fascinating point.
Yeah, I mean, and live theater can be something as rudimentary as one actor with a chair and a few cues, and it can be the most moving thing you'll ever see. I've seen plays like that are, outstanding. That's one of the things I love. Poor theater. Theater should be poor. Or it doesn't. It shouldn't be. Shouldn't. I love when poor theater becomes this transcendent thing. I have it in mind to write a one-woman show for Amanda. I have an idea. I just haven't realized it yet. But we got to give Abbie a chance to come back.
Cool. Well, why don't we crack on back with the couple of questions?
Okay, yeah.
4 minutes in.
And I've got we've got one or two more questions that we've written already, but Jack might also have some other questions that have come to mind, but I'll just jump back into it. How does your relationship with a piece of theatre or film, how is it different when you're approaching it from different roles? So director versus writer versus being an actor, if you've done acting. Could you speak to that a bit?
Yeah. When you're directing, you are kind of like the ultimate audience in a way. Like you take the script. I mean, if somebody else has written it, you take it. You have to be the first person to analyze it, to then like communicate to everybody else how that's going to go. It's an interesting process because you want to be respectful to what the writer has written and try to bring out the truth of that in the most respectful and best way that you possibly can. But at the same time, you have been hired for a reason, and that's because of your style or something particular about your imagination that you can bring to realizing the world around you. And communicating that to other people through the visual or the stage medium. Whereas writing it's for me it's really interesting because I never really wrote by myself until I started writing with Kevin. I mean, I do the odd thing here and there, but it wasn't something I was super confident in. And you're not only creating a world and the characters within it, but also are responsible for finding the themes that connect them and the story and like the overall objectives of what you're trying to communicate. It's kind of like an ultimate like birthing process in a way. Like you're really creating it like at a cellular like DNA level rather than interpreting it for somebody else.
Yeah, nice.
I am not an actor, so I can't speak to that. But as an editor, actually, like what they say about filmmaking is that a film is written 3 times. It's written by the writer, it's written in production, and then it's rewritten again in the edit. And what you get in the edit might be very different from the script because the editor is writing with the pictures and the sound rather than like an idea that they came up with in their head. So it's a more like realistic process, and it could be that in your imagination these things fit together in this order, but in the edit it might be more interesting to craft them in a different order, or take this out or add something else in that communicates the idea better, and you're all working towards the same goal, but it's rewritten 3 times.
That's an amazing point. I think editing is when you're starting out, whether it's writing or in my case like coding, software stuff, or design, but also I think it's just universal across creative disciplines, is you don't realize when you're starting out actually like the bulk of the work is in editing and refinement. I think, I can't remember who said it. I think it might have been the guy who said who wrote that book on writing well. He said something along the lines of the art of writing is rewriting, and there's this amazing statistic. I'm going to butcher the statistic. This is bullshit as it's coming out of my mouth. However, the sentiment is correct, and it's something to the effect of like, of all the Academy Awards for like best film, like over the last like how many years, 20 years, like 19 out of 20 of them, something like that, have the film that won best film also won best editor or was nominated for best editing. And I think it's like Ridley Scott or Scorsese or somebody like that, like has worked with the same editor for like 3 decades or something, and they're kind of the unsung hero. It's like not as sexy, but actually the editor is and the editing team are essentially the ones that are going to be making in a way like making the film all it could be, like really bringing it to the next level. And I just think that's amazing that you're doing the editing as well. So you're seeing it like 360 from writing, production, and editing. It'd be cool for you to give acting a go one day. I don't know if you'd be like maybe see from really the inside out. Yeah. Even a minor role might be great for you. And what about you, Kevin? What's your view on like what's your experience been like? What are your perspectives from approaching a work through the lens of different roles?
Yeah, so I'll start with playwriting because that was really where I began. You're as the playwright, you are trying to create something that is then witnessed and experienced. You're a salesperson, really. Your script is what you're pitching. You've got to sell your vision through a script. And the first people you have to sell it to generally are actors. So you have to be writing things, parts, roles that actors want to do. So the first thing I did after trying my hand at a little bit of playwriting was go and act. Very poorly. But I went and I did it. I started, my acting career in a community education class in North Minneapolis because I wanted to write plays. And the thing I tell people who are just starting out writing plays, young people or even older people who have never written a play, is, have you ever acted? I ask them, have you ever acted? No. Okay, well, you got to go and you have to at least take an acting class. And ideally, you have to be a part of a production as an actor. Because, how are you going to write a symphony if you can't play the piano or you can't play an instrument? Like, I think you really... Maybe you can do it. Maybe you're a once-in-a-generation genius, right? But I think in most cases, you got to know what it's like to memorize lines, what it's like to play a good part, and what it's like to rehearse a play. Because when you're writing, those are the people you are writing for. You are writing for actors. And as far as preparing as an actor, it's been a long time. But your whole job there is to serve the play. Actors are props that eat. And especially if you're not, and if you're not a leading man or woman, if you're playing there are no small parts, but it really is your job to just totally just dissolve your ego entirely and to just fall into the play. And I'm watching my actors do it right now in moderation, and it's just in my play moderation, and it's amazing because we cast the parts. They're both a little older than the script was written to do. So I'm watching them both kind of create these characters who present as like 10 years younger than I know they are, and they're doing it they're working. I think someone famously said, it was like Stanislavski or one of these famous people said, an actor prepares, and that's what an actor does. Artaud, the great Antonin Artaud, the great French madman of the theater, essayist and philosopher, and we did another Darkness episode on him. He said, actors are athletes of the heart. And I've always loved that quote, So I stopped acting because I'm not naturally gifted at it, and two, because it's so time consuming. I mean, this play that I have these actors doing, it's 70 pages, 2 people on stage. They're on stage the entire time. There's nowhere to hide, and they have to get those lines in their heads, and they have to get their blocking in their heads, and they have to do this in a 4 week process, and then go on in front of complete strangers and trust one another that if one of them misses a line, the other one's going to pick it up. And it's nerve-wracking. And actors have to love, how to say this. So the playwright writes something to be witnessed. The actors they empty themselves into that thing in order to be witnessed, because actors love attention. Actors love attention as a rule. You have to. They love eyes on them. They love being on the tennis court alone under the lights. So, and then the director's job is to get out of the way, is to watch, get out of the way, and have good taste. You have to have good taste. All of the people involved kind of have good taste, but I think the director more than anyone else has to have good taste and an eye, and you have to. It's just basic stuff like you can't be standing here in this moment because half the audience is going to see your ass, and it's a great ass, but we don't. They want to see your face. They didn't pay to see your ass. Just basic stuff. Blocking, make sure they're hitting their light, and I mean, Mamet has some really good writing on this stuff about how like the better. How to say this? A director should do as little as possible, is what David Mamet says, and I'm inclined to agree. So, there you go.
Jack, did you want to jump in?
Sorry, I just totally spaced out there.
You're all right. Jack, it's late. It's late for Jack. Yeah. It's late, and he's got a new little one and everything. Yeah,
it must be.
I do want to ask about Killdozer though.
He's like sleep deprived. He's like, forget about the rest of the interview. Just tell me about Killdozer.
We regress to more primitive forms, or maybe we draw closer to the world of being within which dwells the Killdozer. Marvin Heemeyer was an imperfect vessel. He was a flawed man. But what he did do is he did manage to tap into something archetypal in Killdozer.
Absolutely.
And
listen, when God comes to you in a hot tub,
we have to give him credit as the flawed vessel, but the vessel nonetheless for Killdozer. So, I guess a man building an armored Komatsu bulldozer and bulldozing the town of Granby is quite an attractive thing in itself. So I guess my question might seem fairly obvious, but what was it about Killdozer that drew you to it?
The Killdozer, Abbie?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
think it's another one of
I had no idea anything about this until Kevin had told me about it one day, and it was just like extremely unbelievable.
How can you not know about Killdozer though?
and everyone I've told it to since is like, are you for real? Like, this actually happened. Granby, Colorado, 2004. I mean, as we like, it's kind of like the film Falling Down, like seeing a man push to his limit, and like what is that thing that's going to push you over the edge. And I just love that that what sent this man into a bulldozer rampage, that was pre-planned. Like the premeditation of this thing was wild. Was like town planning nonsense.
I totally agree with him though.
He didn't get cheated on. Like nobody murdered his family or anything like that. It was just like death by 1,000 paper cuts. That he was like, you know what? Screw you, Granby, Colorado. Like, where this is going to be the end of you.
I would like to intercede on his behalf, though. He was also commanded by God when he was in a hot tub.
True. I mean,
strike down the local government,
and that is why we have a song in Killdozer the Musical called "God in a Hot Tub."
Killdozer the Musical,
and it comes after the planned development overlay district blues. Right, I'm looking at our sheet right now. We have it all. Go on, Abbie. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think for me as well. Like we had a discussion the other day when we were talking about the first act of the musical and how we're sort of approaching it. I think the thing that I connect to is that like I'm also from a very small town. I'm from Paihere in the Bay of Islands of New Zealand. It's a beautiful place, but there's only 4,000 people. And there's something about small towns where like everyone knows your business and like you've got it's almost like primary school. Like you can't be different. Like if you're gonna be the weirdo, you will be ostracized and like your life is not gonna be nice. Whereas like if you live in a big city like London, you can be as weird as you want because you're completely anonymous. Like you're not gonna see like 3/4 of these people the next day, the day after, like a month from now. And like that oppressiveness of the small town for someone who like Marv, who was an outsider and then came in and decided to live there and like came up against like people who were very embedded in the small town. That's just so interesting to me. And we keep joking that after this is written, we're never going to be allowed in Granby.
That or it's going to be that, or they're going to give us the keys to the city. Yeah,
I think they make tourism money now off.
They got a statue to it.
I have a
one big Komatsu shaped lemon, and they've made lemonade out of it.
I have a Killdozer flag. I've got the Tread on Them flag. If you've never seen it, I really do. It's over here.
There was one day we went through all the like Google reviews for the like Durchef family businesses, and like they're all getting these 1-star reviews on Google. Like, how could you do this to Marvin Heemeyer?
The flag is too big to bring over here right now. But you could look it up. You can buy a "Don't Tread on Them" Killdozer flag. It's yellow or "Tread on Them." Tread on them. It says, yeah. I love it. There was a buddy of mine recently who saw it who was like, "Dude, I just love that you wake up every morning and that's the flag." Sorry, what were you going to say?
And so, Kevin, you were the progenitor of the concept of the Killdozer musical, right? So, could you tell us a little bit more about your side of things?
I think you're beginning to see how this writing relationship works sometimes.
I do pitch things sometimes. We just haven't discussed them.
Yeah. Sorry, maybe no, really, Abbie. This is making me think we've got to take an Abbie Lucas idea from germ to germ. But no, so the Killdozer, it's just clearly like it's internet folklore. He's Paul Bunyan from hell, right? Like he's an American figure, only in America.
Yeah,
and the footage
America, for sure.
And what's our favorite line from the first act, Abbie?
So in the book, which like I am not a fan of the Sky High News author of the Killdozer book. It's like his writing style is I'm just not a fan. He wrote down that there was like a townswoman who gets out of her car. And she's like, I heard it on the radio. It's Marvin Heemeyer in that thing. He's getting back at the town.
We love that.
Like, they knew they had it
Back at
coming.
the town. Like, you all knew. You all
fucking
knew.
knew.
Like, how much you have pushed this man to the brink. You all knew.
Passive,
Yeah.
passive aggressive bullshit. And when and the more I learned about Marvin Heemeyer, like when I dug into it, I realized I'm uniquely positioned to write Killdozer the Musical.
Yeah, how so?
Because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
am.
Did you try to armor your own Komatsu bulldozer at any point in your life?
I'm not very handy.
Not that
I
handy.
will say I'm more of a computer toucher. Honestly, guys, we after the episode, we gotta
Bulldozer at home.
we
Is Kevin
you know we need to get on Pump Fun and launch the Killdozer.
Yeah. To fund Killdozer
To fund
the
the
musical.
Yes.
But that would be awesome. And but joking aside, if people want to support Killdozer the Musical, donate to Badmouth Theater Company because that's where the money goes. And we are a 501c3. Go to badmouthtc.com.
Nice.
But and I'm quite serious. When we finish the script, we have a bunch of people a bunch of musical types gathered, and we're gonna workshop this thing. We are quite serious about it, and we are gonna pass the hat around when the time comes. Probably do like a GoFundMe or whatever. But jokes aside, when I learned that Marvin Heemeyer was from South Dakota and I'm from North Dakota, and I saw a picture of him.
You're like Uncle Marv.
Yes. He's like he's like a distant relative, actually probably distantly related from the old country. I said, I understand this guy, and this is a guy who his pride. They thought that they would just drive him out of town, is what they thought would happen. And they did not realize what they were dealing with in Marvin Heemeyer. And I know that guy. I grew up around like that.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm in a position to sort of tell that story.
Yeah,
Also,
don't F with Uncle Marv.
Exactly. There you go. Yes. And if I was handier, I would have bulldozed any number of buildings by now. So I'm sure
He did demonstrate that just really, no matter who you are, if you can actualize something that's so primordially satisfying as a concrete armored bulldozer smashing buildings in a small town, you'll be famous. You'll be remembered forever.
Immortalized. Yeah.
Or until Ronald Reagan dies.
Right, Ronald, and Ronald Reagan figures heavily in our script, by the way. Ronald Reagan died a day after Marv Heemeyer.
Yeah.
So there's
Coincidence?
Exactly. There's some sort of weird fated. You know they met in the hereafter.
Oh,
and that's
100%.
what our script is sort of takes that concept and turns it into a musical.
Dope. Well, hopefully we get to see it sometime.
Yeah, I'm
That'd be
very
dope.
excited for that.
So I've got concluding questions, unless you want to jump into anything, Jack. But I've got one that I was really interested in asking you guys, given that you've just written this amazing radio play. As a bit of context, we just interviewed, correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, David. Am I misremembering David from Tookie's Mag?
Yeah. From
And-
his Mad Sidebar podcast.
And he's got this premise of like trying to create a publication, Tookie's Mag, and associated podcasts and so forth, about a living culture, what he calls a living culture. So not just venerating the old classics, right? Of course, they have their place, but he's really interested. So they only cover things that have been published in the last 2 years, I think is their time frame. And
That's cool.
So something like what you guys have just created like really fits into that idea of like, okay, the classics will always have their place and they'll have spots on bookshelves and stuff, but how do we build a culture, an online culture around and scene around emerging art, emerging literature, and so forth? And obviously, you guys have just done this, and you've done it really well. For all of our listeners, I would really encourage you to go and listen on Spotify or wherever to the Dark Pony show. The latest 2 episodes at the time of recording are Basilisk Part 1 and Basilisk Part 2. In your opinion, who of your peers or people out there in the world are pushing the boundaries of film and theatre? Who's worth paying attention to that you've really seen that you like, and who are you paying attention to?
Abbie, after you.
Who have I seen that I'm paying attention to? I'm gonna have to think for a moment. I mean, immediately what jumps out into my head is just the film that I saw the other day, and I haven't really looked into this filmmaker yet. I'm gonna have to look up her name. I saw The Substance, the new Demi Moore film that's just come out.
Nice. Yeah,
and
nice.
It's a body horror, and a lot of it is to do with the like anxiety of getting older as a woman, and like she plays a starlet, and her star fades, and obviously that attention is gone, but then the film just goes crazy. Like I could not have predicted what would possibly happen during that film, and it's wild, and it's funny, and it's terrifying, and the filmmaker is a French woman.
Coralie.
Yes, yeah, and
Foggy.
Yeah, like that's an interesting voice.
Yeah.
I only just found out about.
My
about
partner
something
might be
the other
interested
day.
in watching that film with me. It sounds like a fascinating film. Body horror about getting older as a woman. Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes to a certain point, and you're like, you think you've got a hold of where it is and what it's going, and then it goes 100 times further.
Body horror of
what that happens next.
I feel like a body horror about men getting older would just be like erectile dysfunction. Just like gross hair coming out of parts of your body that you don't want it to come out of.
So if you took that and just went to its total extreme, that is what.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me because I'm sort of cloistered away up here in Minnesota. So the theater for me has been, and then also theater just went through a horrible time.
Yeah.
Because of the plague. And so it's hard for me to really answer that. I'm not really in touch with.
I'd just say Brad.
Brad.
Well, no, obviously, yeah, Brad. No, but genuinely, like Brad Kelly. No, legitimately, my podcast husband is going to be dropping another book very soon, and I'm very excited about that. I think there's a lot of very interesting stuff happening on this part of Twitter, let's say, and the business that y'all are covering, the sort of network and scene that y'all are sort of tapping into. I'm genuinely excited for Nutcranker 2. I know it's funny, but I can't wait to see what the Nutman has in store for us. I think that Passage, what they're doing, can be. Obviously, I don't co-sign everything they publish, but the new Xenosystems release, the Nick Land release, came with that little hat. Everybody's wearing the Xenosystems hat, and I mean they're publishing old blogs.
Yeah. Xenosystems has been published. We need to cover that, Jack. That's right.
Absolutely,
yeah,
guys.
for sure.
Yeah, Jack's like, oh, son of a bitch. you open up one page, and they are taking their time. They're publishing these beautiful volumes that you want to have.
Nice.
Very sexy books, and it's like and they're republishing like blog posts, but there's something about like the context of putting it in this book that people pass by the book and they go, "What's that? What are you reading?" You go, "Well, it's a little complicated, like I'm reading about the Time War, But like and you open up one page of that thing and there's just interesting ideas in there that are really like off the wall and kind of get your brain going another direction. And then just like podcasts right now, I just think are amazing. It's an amazing time to be making podcasts and long form media. I mean, when I was a kid, I never would have imagined something like this would exist. That we're able to, we're quadrangulating 4 different time zones, talking about interesting topics, all connected through Twitter, and then these kooky podcasts that we do about books from hell and then dead artists. It's an exciting time, and I think podcasts are an art form. It's fun. It's a good time.
Yeah. When I was younger, I was trying to like dodge like random dicks on chat roulette. I definitely didn't imagine having a productive conversation.
I'm still doing that. Right? I'm still doing that. I just have a Patreon now too.
Yeah, I'm just trying to monetize it now.
Tookie's Mag just reminded me. Shout out to Improvidence, the novella by David Herod, who's on Tookie's Mag. I just finished reading that. I really liked it. Want to get him on the show.
Nice.
Well, and doesn't Wallabeck have a new one coming out? Yeah. Sorry, Jack. Here, go ahead.
No, that's all. I just wanted to say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, we'll wrap up unless you've got anything else, Jack. We've got our wrap up questions. Of course. Let's go. Let's shill.
Yeah.
Where can we mentioned at the top of the show some of your projects, but if you want to just remind our audience again, we'll put in the show notes. If there's where would you direct our audience at the top of the show? At the bottom of the show.
As a filmmaker, I'm mostly on Instagram at abbielucas.com, ABBIE. At Abbie Lucas or abbielucas.com. And then watch Voices on Omeletto.
Nice.
Yes. And I'm Kevin Kautzman. I'm on Twitter at Kautzmania. Everything's Art of Darkness, artofdarkpod.com, Badmouth Theater Company, badmouthtc.com. If you're in the Twin Cities, moderationplay.com, October 3rd to the 13th, and then Art of Darkness Live in Detroit, Michigan, October 26th, artofdarkpod.com. There you go.
There you go. And Basilisk, once again, Basilisk, the radio play, is on Spotify. If you look up Dark Pony, Basilisk, it's excellent. It's a great time. Listen to it before you go to bed, like as you're drifting off to sleep. Get a couple of nights of nightmares out of it. You'll have a great time.
Have 12
Thank me
grams
for it
of
later.
dried mushrooms.
And listen to Great. Jack, any last words?
No.
He just wants to go to bed at this point.
Go to bed, Jack.
Kevin, Abbie, it's been a hell of a lot of fun having you on the show. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for creating this
very
work.
much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. Anytime. And if y'all see us do something on Art of Darkness, if we do a core episode that really gets you jazzed, just slide into the DM Marinos and say, hey, I want to come on and do a dark room. Really. We would be glad to have one or both of you on anytime, all right?
Nice.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right. See ya.
Bye.